I call to order this regular meeting of the Governing Board and public hearing. The date is Tuesday, October 1st, and the time is 6 p.m. We are going to open with our public hearing. I would like to take a roll call from my far right, please.
Karen Warner.
Amy Carney.
Julie Sanowski.
Zach Lindsay.
And Libby Hartwells. We have 5 board members present, and we have a quorum. We are moving to item 2C, the presentation of the Sex Ed Human Growth and Development Proposed Course of Study. Dr. Benson.
Good evening, President Hartwells, Vice President Lindsay, board members, Dr. Menzel, Ms. Wagner, and all here with us this evening. Tonight, I'm happy to have the opportunity to walk us through the second of 2 public hearings required when Arizona schools or districts consider adopting a proposed sex ed human growth and development course of study. To get started, wanted to clarify the structure of this presentation and the public hearing. First, we'll revisit a couple of points from the first public hearing to ensure all are aware of key context important to understanding the work of the Sex Ed Advisory Committee and the course of study that's been proposed by the Advisory Committee. Next, we'll share highlights of public feedback we've received during our 60-day review period thus far and how we're responding to some of that feedback. To wrap up the presentation part of this hearing, we've included budget information should the board elect to adopt the proposed course of study at the October 22nd board meeting. After this brief presentation, members of the public will have an opportunity to provide feedback or comment for 2 minutes each without discussion or dialogue. But as a point of clarity, SUSD legal counsel Nick Buzan and I will follow up via email or in person to respond to any questions received from community members, just as we did after the first hearing. Since the first public hearing, we've had a handful of persons reach out and inquire how we got here on our journey. Key context shared during that first public hearing includes that the district paused teaching human growth and development and sex ed at the middle and high school levels at least 4 years ago, given the reasons indicated on the slide before us. And since that pause, site and district leaders have received requests to develop a course of study and again afford parents with a choice to allow their student to participate in age-appropriate lessons and content. I've received 2 more requests in the last 24 hours. Those requests and research on the positive impact of providing adolescents with developmentally appropriate information that serves to promote healthy behaviors and reduce risk behaviors and incidences of dating violence, those are the why we pursued this work and why we're here for this second of 2 public hearings tonight. To reiterate for those that might be new to this conversation, in Arizona, sex education is not required and it can't be offered prior to grade 5. According to state law, parents must have the right to opt in their child to participate in lesson content if a district or school offers a course of study. Detailed information about the work of the advisory committee and the proposed course of study was shared during the first public hearing on August 20th. Areas we addressed included a recognition of those that continue to serve and give their time to the work of the advisory committee, and a shout out to our team members supporting their work. Background information on choosing the best was shared, the curriculum resource identified to support the course of study, recognized as a leader in providing age-appropriate curricula, and information to teens to foster healthy habits and promote risk avoidance since the 1990s. A brief mention of initial feedback received by community members reviewing the course of study was shared, and we reiterated again that we've been following all legal authority, Arizona statutes, admin code, SUSD board policy, impacting the work of the committee. As of today, 4 individuals have reviewed the course of study at the viewing stations at the MDA, and 3 have provided written feedback. The board received a digital copy of all those communications received and the responses to those communications a couple of weeks ago. As committee chair, I've provided a summary of those suggestions and that feedback and questions received on the slide in view. 2 key suggestions we wanted to highlight that have been shared as recommendations for improvement include, from our community members, include a request to add an introduction to the video on boundaries at grade 5 and a separate request to situate the required additional legislated content that's not included in the curriculum resource, Choosing the Best, at grades 7 and 9 in a slide deck to ensure that content receives adequate attention as well. We've responded by creating both to support the course of study moving forward. No new content has been added that changes the course of study. We've simply listened to the feedback and created documents to better introduce the content in the course of study. And just before moving on, wanted to pause and publicly thank those that have taken the time to review and submit that feedback to allow us to improve during this process. Should the board act to approve the course of study later this month, the total budget impact over the course of a 7-year adoption would be just over $54,000 or $7,730 per year. That total budget includes annual licenses for the digital teacher tool and leader guides at grades 5, 7, and 9, customization to reduce the content at grades 7 and 9 to stay in step with the 5-day course of study proposed by the advisory committee, and to generate a polished product at grade 5 in response to the advisory committee's request to separate the content for boys and girls at the elementary level. The Choosing the Best vendor has already done that. They just haven't put a bow on finalizing it. So they separate it for us in draft format at this point, and if finalized, that becomes separate or specific or unique to Scottsdale. The content is just separate for boys and girls. The budget also includes at-home access for parents at grades 5, 7, and 9, so parents can elect to serve as the instructor or share the resources with their students. And in-person training for facilitators and teachers is also included from those at Choosing the Best. To wrap up this part, I wanted to again thank all serving on this advisory committee and the district team members that have been supporting our work. Next steps include the advisory committee actually reconvenes tomorrow evening to review what's been shared during these public hearings and to look at the feedback received from community members and responses to that feedback. The second read of the course of study is situated as an action item at the October 22nd governing board meeting at this time. Again, potential action end of the month, October 22nd. As a reminder, the course of study remains on review for public review and comment at the MDA until October 15th. And the work and the minutes of this committee can be accessed on SUSD's website on the committee hub at any time. We appreciate the support the board has given to allow the work of this advisory committee to take place and the time you've allowed to bring the proposed course of study forward for consideration. With that, we'll move on to the public comment part of this hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Benson. All right. As Dr. Benson already referred to, there's a 2-minute time limit. You do not need to pre-register in order to speak. But first, I'd like to read the what's in your agenda actually as 2D. Pursuant to ARS 38-431.02 and Section 15-711F3 and the AAC R7-2-303, notice is hereby given to the members of the governing board and to the general public that the governing board is conducting this second public hearing today, Tuesday, October 1st at 6 p.m. at Coronado High School regarding the proposed sex education course of study. The public hearing is held for the purpose of receiving public input on the sex education course of study prior to the governing board meeting where the course of study will be considered for approval. Public input may include written comments, oral comments, and comments submitted electronically, which have been done, as Dr. Benson referred to. If you decide to come to the podium, please state your name and your affiliation with the Scottsdale Unified School District, and you'll have 2 minutes at that time to share your comments with the board. All right, going once. All right, hearing none, we will adjourn this public hearing. Do I have a second to adjourn the public? Seconded by Ms. Sanowski. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes 5-0. We will now open the meeting, the regular meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District. The time is, let's see here, 6:09 p.m. And Vice President Lindsay, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? If you stand, if you are able, please. Thank you, Vice President Lindsay. I will take a roll call, starting with my far right, please.
Karen Warner.
Amy Carney.
Julie Sanowski.
Zach Lindsay.
And Libby Hart-Wells. Again, we have 5 board members present. We have a quorum, and we will proceed with board business. Are there any requests? I did not receive any advance requests for amendments to the agenda. Are there any? Ms. Warner, you have your microphone on. Do you have? All right, very good. All right, I have one slight movement. I would like to move item 10A to follow item 6, superintendent's comments. Wedge that in between items 6 and 7. Otherwise, the agenda as proposed, as amended, I move to approve the amendment as agended. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Sanowski seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion passes 5-0. All right, we will move on to the meeting decorum. Citizens attending and/or participating in the Scottsdale Unified School District meetings, either in person, virtually, or telephonically, are required to observe the same rules of order and decorum applicable to members of the governing board and staff. Unauthorized remarks or demonstrations from members of the audience, yells, outbursts, or other disruptions are not permitted. And we are going to move to the best part of the whole meeting, and that is our student and staff celebrations.
Well, good evening, President Hartwells, Vice President Lindsay, and members of the governing board. Our SUSD educators continue to shine, and tonight we'd like you to meet one of our International Baccalaureate Program educators who was recently recognized. I'd like to invite our Executive Director of Elementary Education, Margaret Cerna, to the podium to tell us more of this exciting story.
Thank you, Dr. Menzel. Good evening, President Hartwells, Vice President Lindsay, and governing board members. Joining me for this evening's celebration is Anastasia Elementary School 5th grade teacher Andy Griffith and Principal Jen Waldron and Assistant Principal Andrea Martin. Can you please join us? Okay. It is my great honor to introduce Angie Griffith, Arizona International Baccalaureate School's Primary Years Program Teacher of the Year. This was the first year Anasazi could nominate one of its teachers for this award, having been authorized as an IB World School in the spring of 2023. The nomination process started at the school when Mrs. Griffith was chosen by her colleagues to represent the school in the next round. She emerged as this year's statewide winner from a pool of many talented IB PYP teachers from across Arizona and was recognized at the quarterly Arizona IB Schools meeting on September the 20th. Mrs. Griffith exemplifies all the qualities of an IB teacher. She promotes curiosity, fosters engagement, and guides her students towards achieving their goals. Anastasia is extremely proud of her accomplishments and grateful to call her a Scorpion. And from our perspective at the district, we offer you our heartiest thanks, congratulations, and this SUSD recognition coin. Did I leave it on? Oh, I already gave it to you. Okay. I visited her class one day, and I was so impressed with the lesson she was doing with her students that I am inviting her to present at a principal's meeting. So she's going to train us. Okay, and with that, Principal Waldron would like to say a couple of words.
I'll be brief. I told Nancy I would be. Okay. Good evening, Governing Board President Dr. Libby Hartwells, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Menzel and Gladys. Tonight we gather to celebrate excellence in education and to honor an exceptional educator who embodies the very essence of the IB PYP program. It is with great pride and joy that we recognize Mrs. Griffith as the IB PYP Teacher of the Year for our entire state. Mrs. Griffith has consistently demonstrated an unwavering commitment to nurturing young minds and fostering a love for learning that extends far beyond the classroom walls. Her innovative teaching methods and dedication to the IB philosophy have not only inspired our students, but also elevated the standard of education in our entire Anasazi school community. Mrs. Griffith's classroom promotes global citizenship, where students are empowered to take action and make a positive impact on the world around them. Their implementation of the PYP units of inquiry has been nothing short of transformative, seamlessly integrating local and global contexts to create meaningful learning experiences. And most importantly, students have developed a genuine love for inquiry and discovery that will serve them throughout their lives. As we celebrate Mrs. Griffiths and her achievements, we also celebrate the power of dedicated educators to shape the future. Angie's work reminds us of the profound impact that one passionate educator can have on countless young lives. Angie, on behalf of the entire DM, IB, and Anasazi school community, thank you for your tireless efforts, your inspiring creativity, and your unwavering commitment to excellence in education. You truly embody the spirit of the IBPYP, and we are honored to recognize you tonight. Thank you for elevating excellence because kids.
Congratulations, Angie. We're so proud of you, and thank you for investing in the lives of our students. Makes a difference. Thank you. As we wrap up the first quarter of 24-25, our students are coming into their own academically, artistically, and athletically. So we don't have others in the room this evening, but I have many to celebrate, and you'll see some things on the screen as I go through this. As I alluded to at our September meeting when the names were still under wraps, 22 of our Scottsdale Unified Class of 2025 are semifinalists for the annual National Merit Scholarship Competition. These students are from Arcadia High School, Victoria, Annabelle, Aiden, Jenna, Ari, and William. From Chaparral High School, Andreas, Ashley, and Caitlin. From Desert Mountain High School, we have Adriana, Jordan, Max, Tatum, Adam, Meredith, Nandini, Madeline, Lauren, Jaslyn, and Sonia. Quite a crew from Desert Mountain. And then from Saguaro High School, we have Taylor and Gray. These outstanding members of our senior class are now invited to submit applications for this prestigious scholarship, and we will start finding out in April which of them are finalists. We want to wish each one good luck as they fill out those applications. The high school theater season kicked off 2 weeks ago with an outstanding production of Little Shop of Horrors at Chaparral High School. Every aspect of the show was just incredible, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming productions after fall break. I don't know how many of you have had an opportunity to see the musical theater performances and some of the other concerts at all of our high schools. It is an evening well spent, so I encourage individuals not only at the board table but members of our community to make it a date night. It's really worthwhile. I'm also looking forward to the annual coffee house events, which are fundraisers for our choir and band programs. Those will be happening after fall break as well. Coincidentally, we learned today that a 2019 Chaparral Firebird, Cole Newberg, who also attended Sequoia Elementary and Cocopa Middle School, has landed his first role on Broadway in the revival of Gypsy that opens in December. Just this past May, Cole graduated from the University of Michigan, and he's already on his way to seeing his dreams born on SUSD stages come true. So we're very proud of him and look forward to hearing more about his adventures and hopefully, as an SUSD legacy, inviting him back to be able to tell his story and inspire the next generation of Chaparral Firebirds. The high school marching band competition season is underway, and SUSD schools are leading the way. I am proud to report that our Coronado Dons picked up first place at last weekend's Abota competition at Corona del Sol High School, sweeping the music performance, visual performance, general performance, and percussion categories. They did it in unbelievable record heat, and they waited a very long time because they performed in the mid-afternoon and found out at the end of the evening that they won. So I want to ask everyone to give the Coronado Dons Marching Band a round of applause. To round things out, in athletics, the badminton, cross-country, golf, swim and dive, and volleyball seasons are heading into their final weeks of month of competition. Last week, as I mentioned in my weekly update to our staff, I was able to attend the Chaparral girls flag football game that was Arizona Cardinals flag football game of the week. It was wonderful to see this new opportunity for our female student athletes to compete in this sport. And we're looking forward to many more years of competitive flag football and state championships in the years ahead. And speaking of the Cardinals, they also paid a visit to Coronado High School last week to recognize varsity football coach Rick Benjamin as their high school coach of the week for his outstanding coaching performance the week of September 16th. He was presented with a certificate and a $2,000 check for the Coronado football program. I want to thank Coach Benjamin for his commitment to the program and his support of our students and for his leadership and mentorship of the team. I want to close the celebrations this evening by noting that the month of October is National Principals Month. And every day, the leaders at our 29 brick and mortar schools and our one online school are elevating excellence, inspiring and guiding our students, mentoring teachers and staff, and spearheading success at every level. This year, they've also been tasked with some unexpected challenges related to social media hoax, some of the other threats that have required them to stop what they were doing in order to ensure the safety and well-being of our students and staff. They work before the sun comes up and they work late into the evening. They're deeply committed to the mission, vision, and values of this organization. And so I would like to ask the principals who are in the room to stand and be recognized. While the month of October is specifically dedicated to celebrating and recognizing principals, we appreciate you all year long. Then if I may, I'll transition from our celebrations into just three more quick information items under the superintendent comments. Last night, we hosted a safety and security town hall meeting at Chaparral High School. I want to thank President Dr. Hart Wells and Board Member Carney for attending. I also want to express my deep gratitude and appreciation for Chief Walther, Sergeant Bingham, and the Paradise Valley and Phoenix Police who participated in the town hall as well. And last but not least, I also want to give a shout out to Josh Friedman, our Director of Security, and Christine Harrington, our Director of Communications and Marketing, along with their teams, because safety is everyone's responsibility. And we had an opportunity to have a town hall for just over an hour, answering questions that were submitted from people in our community. We had a lot of media coverage. The feedback today has been pretty positive. The video of the town hall has been viewed more than 389 times at last count. So I believe that it was overall a success, and I'm just appreciative for the partnership we have. I wish that we didn't have to respond to the kinds of hoaxes that we've been responding to, but the safety and security of our students is the top priority, and as Chief Walther said, we'll respond every time like we did the day before in order to ensure the safety of our students, and that message was warmly received by our parents. In addition to October being Principal Appreciation Month, it is also National Bullying Prevention Month and Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So throughout the course of this month, you'll see messages regarding those two items, and they're very important for our students and our staff. And then I just want to say we're at the end of the first quarter once we get to Friday. And it has been the hottest quarter on record. We thought we were getting a little bit better, but the temperatures have gone back up. But our staff have worked tirelessly. What I enjoyed tonight about celebrating Angie, and what I always appreciate when I get to visit our schools, is that the people who work with our students day in and day out, the frontline classroom teachers and the individuals who are supporting our students in their learning, have done everything that they can to ensure that our students have meaningful learning opportunities and to elevate excellence in Scottsdale Unified School District. So as we head into fall break, I wish you quiet, something that's relaxing, hopefully something a little cooler than what we've experienced. And then coming back after fall break, which is really important, please come back. And then we'll start the second quarter ready for high levels of success. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Dr. Menzel. Congratulations to all of our celebrations tonight. Very impressive. Strong start for Scottsdale Unified School District school year. All right, we are going to move now to the action item 10A, approval of shared use agreement, the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Scottsdale regarding renovations and use of portions of Tonalea Middle School. I believe we have some guests.
So tonight, we're pleased to invite President Ivan Gilreath and Chief Walther to answer questions that you might have about this agreement. But you'll recall that we started this conversation quite some time ago. As Tonalea was converted from a K-8 to a 6-8, and we had some surplus space available, and I had the opportunity to meet Ivan when he took over his role as the leader of the Boys and Girls Club here in Scottsdale. We started talking about what opportunities might be available with the space that we have on that campus, because we didn't want the space to go unutilized. And he has experience in doing a creative school club partnership from his prior employment experience. And so over the past, probably a little bit more than a year now, I don't remember the exact start date, we've been having these conversations. And tonight we're pleased to bring forward an agreement that would allow us to go from planning and concept to really executing a vision for building the 10th Boys and Girls Club that's a part of your organization. And if you'd like to say a few words about where we are in the process, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Well, thank you, Dr. Menzel, and thank you, Governing Board, for having us here tonight. We're excited about this project because it's been coming around for a while, and it really gives us a chance to serve the kids who really need us down in the South Scottsdale area. So we've been working really hard to put together the plans that we can make to have a Boys and Girls Club right on Tonalea campus that takes transportation out of the equation. A lot of kids don't go to after-school care because they don't have a way to get there. So now these kids are going to transition right from school down to the club. We'll have a little transportation going to pick up some kids from some of the feeder elementary schools. We'll give the kids a hot meal every night. And the things that we're going to put in this club are amazing. We're going to have maker spaces, going to have art rooms, education rooms where they do homework. We're going to do a media room where kids can do podcasts. It's going to have a performing arts center where kids can do dance, music, theater. It's going to have everything that a kid would want to stay off the street between 3 and 6 and really start moving toward really a productive life. So we've been working hard on it. Chief is on my advisory committee. He's also on my board, so he's been very involved in this, and he knows how important it is that we have this kind of facility down in South Scottsdale, keep kids away from the Circle K, just hanging out and doing nothing between those critical hours of 3 and 6 when nothing good happens. And so what we've been doing, been working hard with Dennis over there. Dennis and I have been working hard to try to put together plans of what we do here. We've engaged Chase Building Group as our contractor. Orcutt Winslow, we've engaged as our architect, and we've started to put the dreams on paper of what we want to do. So right now, if we can get the contract approved, what we're looking to do now is move forward and get our fundraising in full gear, hopefully break ground in May of 25, and try to have this new facility open for kids in May of 26. And so, we're really excited about it, and it'll be a gym for the community, it'll be a gym for the school district, and nothing but good will come from us doing this. Chief, any comments?
No, that was great. This might be the first time I actually have nothing, unless you want something from me. Then I always have something for you. That's true.
Great. Governing board members, are there any questions or comments? Ms. Sanowski.
Thank you, President Dr. Hartwells. I would just like to thank you for bringing this project forward into our community. I think it's always easier to do nothing and complain about there are problems, but this is true collaboration and problem solving. And please invite us back, because I know it will be completed when we are off the board. So I look forward to seeing this become part of the community. Yay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanowski. Any other comments? Okay. I just have two clarifications. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And I appreciate the patience and all of the effort. I'm very much looking forward to this partnership, formalizing it this evening. Two matters, just to clarify to the board, because I think the information sheet may not be, it could be not as clear as perhaps it could. So what I'd like to do is just confirm that what we're approving tonight is not just a shared agreement, but also approval that the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Scottsdale has two commitments of sizable donors who, pursuant to this agreement, would have the ability to have their names on a building and/or a gym, for example. The governing board tonight would not just be approving the agreement, but also to allow that to proceed. Those donations and commitments, my understanding, are not necessarily to be made public. However, the district has been given information, a diligence package, and has approved the use of the names and consistent with the use of the public buildings. And those commitments are contingent on the approval of this agreement tonight. So I want to make sure that we're all aligned in that understanding. Any questions from anyone about that? Very good. And then the last thing, and this is just a clarification, I think can be taken care of when there is an update to the designs, when the designs are finalized with the architect, and the addendum to the drawings for Tonalea Middle School are submitted, that at that time we have included in that addendum at some point a cover letter, Mr. Buzan, however you wish to effect this statement, that the benefits of the agreement do not inure to the benefits of the affiliates or holding companies of the Boys and Girls Club. Mr. Ivan, do you have any comments? Are you comfortable with making that
Yes,
statement in
this
the addendum?
agreement is just between the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Scottsdale and Scottsdale Unified School District. Those other organizations you've seen maybe on our audit, those are dormant and not active at this point. So it's just between the two organizations.
Great, that was my understanding. That was my understanding of the district's understanding as well. Just would like to put it expressly into the agreement. Can do that
Yes.
at the time the designs are updated.
Yes.
In addition, new information on the insurance coverage. The agreement states coverages at 2 and 5 for CGL, and what we have going in is a 1 and 3 in terms of incident overall, with a 10 million of umbrella coverage, correct?
Yes,
And
that's
that's as
correct.
of today.
Yes.
In place. And I believe the
Agreement should be amended to
the agreement would then, at that also time, right, be amended, or are we going to do that here? Mr. Buzan, what would you prefer?
I think it would be fine just to cross out the number 2 and put in number 1, and then cross out 5, and then also add in the margin and an additional umbrella coverage, as you stated, and initial that.
So, okay, at signature, Dr. Menzel and both signatories would just initial that change as a handwritten, and I'm getting to the change so I can point
And
back
we
to
are in
the-
possession of the
governing
certificate of insurance, so it's at 1 million and 3 million with a 10 million umbrella instead of the 2 and 5, which did not have the umbrella. So the coverage is adequate to protect the district's interest. It's just stated differently than was in the draft agreement, and with the certificate of insurance, we want to make sure that the language aligns.
Mr. Buzan, can you just point to the section so that the governing board members, yeah, well, I don't have a searchable document. (24A). So the language would then read with coverage limits of not less than 1 million per occurrence and 3 million aggregate for bodily injury and property. Correct?
With an umbrella of 10.
Correct, and that's
There's-
on
that
page
would be-
12.
Yes. Page 12, sections 24, first paragraph A, and then insert the language and a $10 million umbrella coverage in that same sentence. Any questions by the governing board members? We're all aligned and understanding. Very good. Perfect. With that, I will make the motion to approve the shared use agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Scottsdale regarding renovations and use of portions of the Tonalea Middle School as amended. Is there a second?
I'd like to second that motion.
Ms. Sinowski seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's going to be amazing for the young people of South Scottsdale. Thank you.
All right. We will now move to public comment. Let's go. In compliance with the open meeting laws, the governing board may not discuss or take action tonight on any matters raised during public comment that are not on the agenda. However, the governing board members may respond to direct criticism, ask staff to review a matter, or that a matter be placed on a future agenda. Pursuant to ARS 38-431.01, public comment allows individuals to address the public body on any issue within the jurisdiction of the governing board. Pursuant to policy BEDH, political speech that would be construed as electioneering under applicable Arizona law is prohibited. The board president will instruct a speaker to refrain from such commentary. The board president shall end an individual's comment period if electioneering continues. Electioneering is an issue outside of the governing board's jurisdiction and is therefore prohibited. As a reminder, each speaker will have 2 minutes. The screen will indicate the time. Please be prepared to close your comments and relinquish the floor at the conclusion of your time. The board asks that each speaker please introduce yourself by stating your name and whether you live in the district for clarity in the record. We thank you for your time and attendance here this evening and your cooperation in following the meeting decorum and protocols. Okay, I will read the name of our speakers. Please know I will make a good faith effort to pronounce your name accurately. However, I do not. Please accept my apologies in advance and know I meant no disrespect. All right. Our first speaker is Ms. Liz Truba.
Hello. Good evening to the board and everyone else in attendance at this meeting. My name is Liz Truba, and I am a mom of one child right now in SUSD. I just wanted to come to share my thoughts about, I'm kind of newer to SUSD. This is our second year in the district, but we have had a fantastic experience. I'm a native Arizonan. I went to Mesa Public Schools my whole life. I'm a speech language pathologist, and I'm also an educator at a local public university. So I have a lot of background in language and education, and I say that not to humble brag, but just to say that I have a lot of experience with education, and we've had a really great experience with SUSD so far. Our kids are going to go to Pueblo Elementary, and I speak so highly of that school. The one really big thing that drew us there was the dual immersion program, and when my oldest was about 3 or 4, and we knew we'd go to public schools, but we were looking at SUSD. I really couldn't believe it, and I had to double and triple and quadruple check that was something that was available through a public school program. And we went there, and we have been, just absolutely floored. The support there is fantastic. The principal there, speaking of Principal Month, is amazing. The teachers have been amazing, the PTO and the community. But I was just kind of, as I was paying attention to the meeting, I was reviewing the SUSD vision and mission, and I truly think the dual immersion impact is very future forward and very innovative. And we know from research it provides so many cognitive advantages to children, economic advantages, job advantages. So I'm just very, very grateful for the district for continuing to support and fund programs like that. And that's it. That's all I had to say. So thank you for listening.
All right, our next speaker is William Benedict.
Good evening, Dr. Menzel and members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak before you, so thank you. My name is William Benedict. I'm a resident here in Scottsdale. I have 2 kids that attend Pueblo Elementary School. I'm here tonight to just voice my support for both the dual language immersion program, which we find to be absolutely amazing, and also the community we've built there at Pueblo. Of all the school choices that we had when we looked throughout the district and other places in the valley, one of the things that really stood out to us was the dual language immersion program at Pueblo, and that was really important to my wife and I in choosing where to go. The bilingual curriculum was so important to us, and as Liz said, research shows that it's just going to helps them cognitively. It'll help them in the future. I'm a firefighter. I speak Spanish on calls all the time. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the community we've built at Pueblo. We truly have an amazing community there. We have an active and engaged PTO. We have a Pueblo Dads Club that puts on several events per year. And so just to conclude, I came here tonight just to show my support for Pueblo Elementary and the amazing teachers and staff that make that place truly special. So thank you.
Our next speaker is Mike Bingert.
My name is Mike Bengert, and I live in the district. At the last board meeting, Dr. Hartwells made a bold statement that the supermajority of Scottsdale residents agree with her position of wanting their kids to have access to adult-only rated books with sexually explicit content at school, which appears to violate Arizona laws and SUSD policy. She just doesn't suggest that a few, some, many, or even majority of Scottsdale residents, but asserts that a supermajority support her stance and want to provide children with adults-only rated books at school. The district is reviewing to determine if certain library books comply with state law and district policies. With her comments, is Hartwells trying to use her position to apply pressure and influence the outcome of the district's review, as she did with the committee working to update the code of conduct? The request to review these books was led by Scottsdale Unites for Education Integrity, a local group, not some out-of-state political organization, as Hartwells asserted. Per ARS 133506, it is unlawful for any person with knowledge of the character of the item involved to recklessly furnish, present, provide, make available, give, lend, show, advertise, or distribute to minors any item that is harmful to minors. Per ARS 133501, harmful to minors means that quality of any description or representation in whatever form of nudity, sexual activity, sexual conduct, sexual excitement, or sadomasochistic abuse. The Supreme Court has established that school boards can remove books if the action is taken for non-discriminatory reasons, such as removing a book due to vulgarity or educational unsuitability. SUSD board policies does not permit vulgar sexual content in school libraries. Policy IJL requires that library books to enrich and support the curriculum. I would ask Hartwells which part of the following taken from books in an SUSD library would enrich and support their curriculum. I hold up his penis with my fingers and straddle him before slowly descending on it. She licks and kisses from the base to just before the tip, pausing to watch me hold my breath, desperately wanting her to slip me into her hot, wet mouth. Board, I'm not suggesting we ban books. The state law and SUSD policy already do that. I'm asking that you follow the law. Wake up, parents.
Next speaker is TJ Buckley.
Cool, thanks. TJ Buckley, SCA President, Scottsdale Education Association President, here to speak mainly about our 301 proposal plan. Just wanted to kind of update the board. This is a plan that we worked in complete collaboration with district administration on. We had a 92%, as you'll find in your packet, 92% approval from certified educators in the district. This plan focuses mainly on growth and collaboration within the certified staff, with 80% going towards professional development and PLCs. So that's definitely within the goals of the district. So was really excited about that. And then just really wanted to give a hats off to our HR department, Dr. Cruz's leadership on that, and Amy Goff's wonderful leadership crafting the plan with our collaboration. And just really excited for the positivity that I believe that'll bring our certified staff.
Our next speaker is Myra Reddy.
Hi. A little challenged vertically, but thank you. Is it on? Not on? Still not on? Oh, sorry. That would be important. Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing open comment. We really appreciate that, and I'm excited to be here. I am a mom of 2 children and live here in the district. Both of my children were born here in Scottsdale as well. My daughter has just completed Pueblo Elementary and is a new 6th grader at Mojave Middle School, following the DLI program that begins at Pueblo Elementary for a Spanish immersion. And my son, who's been at Pueblo since pre-K, is now in 4th grade. So we are super excited to be part of such a wonderful, amazing community and part of an amazing school led by Principal Shelley Hummin and wonderful teachers. And my experience that I want to share with you this evening is that Pueblo really does take the time to learn about the students and to help find what meets each student's needs. And from my own personal experience, I can share with you, my son was diagnosed with autism in kindergarten, and we chose to keep him at Pueblo, and he is thriving. He has accommodations that have allowed him to thrive in the classroom. He's picking up the Spanish just as all the other students would. He works with a visual schedule, and he's graduated from that. He's received services in the school, including OT and speech, and he's doing an amazing job. And we're so proud to be parents in the public school system here in Scottsdale. And we're so thankful for all of your support. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Cindy Threadsill.
Hi, my name is Cindy Threadgill, and I am a 17-year Scottsdale resident and Arizona native. I am the proud parent to students at Pueblo, Mojave, and Saguaro. I have served on Pueblo's PTO board, New Building Vision Committee, room parent, and currently serving on Mojave's PTO, as well as Saguaro Choir Boosters, albeit coffee house. I've also substitute taught in the district at every school south of Shea Boulevard from 2017 to 2020. I want to share my positive experience the last 10 years at Pueblo, as my 3 biliterate students have followed the dual language trajectory from Pueblo all the way to Saguaro. I have never experienced a community like Pueblo, a combination that only happens when staff and parents work closely together to provide fruitful academic learning experiences. At Pueblo, we are led by highly qualified administrators, Shelley Hummin and Emma Miranda. Shelley is a strong, kind leader who supports her students, teachers, staff, and closely partners with parents. The teachers and staff inspire lifelong learners at every grade, from PE coach Caruso to Mr. Dave, our facility staff. Students are cared for and inspired at every turn. Like a lot of families at Pueblo, we speak just English at home. It continues to amaze us as we watch our students not just speak, but learn, read, write, and communicate clearly in a language that will serve them well in any career path their lives takes them. Data proves that children learning at a dual language have stronger cognitive skills, including working memory, attention, and mental flexibility. The truth is, we chose Pueblo to give our children a gift that we simply could not provide. My purpose of this comment is to highlight the hidden gem that is Pueblo, not only because of the high-quality staff, but also the community of parents filled with professionals who believe that supporting lifelong learners and building these global citizens and leaders. Thank you to the board, Superintendent Menzel, and our community for your time.
And our final speaker is Nikki Stewart.
Hello, my name's Nikki Stewart. I'm a mom to 3 boys in the Scottsdale Unified School District. Our community at Pueblo is one of the things that makes us so special. Most families prioritize a strong educational foundation, but also the social and emotional needs of their children. Pueblo school staff and families agree, fostering a strong connection between the two is crucial for creating a nurturing environment for our students. Frequent and open communication between our teachers and parents helps create consistent expectations and reinforcement. Our administration collaborates with our PTO to create many opportunities for parents to be on campus in a variety of ways. Parents are encouraged throughout the year to volunteer at special events, class parties, and field trips. As parents become more and more familiar with their child's school environment, they share elements of school life more fully. Our families are strongly intertwined in the school community. The other big reason we so love our school is the dual language Spanish immersion. My husband and I feel that one of the greatest gifts we can give our kids is that of becoming bilingual and biliterate. Not only will they be well on their way to speaking, reading, and writing in Spanish, but study after study shows that students of dual language immersion programs develop greater cognitive flexibility, increased attention control, better memory, superior problem-solving skills, and an enhanced understanding of their first language. Pueblo also does an exceptional job of celebrating and appreciating different cultures. I could go on and on about the merits of this program, but I'm going to run out of time. Our children feel more secure, more safe, and more comfortable at school because our Pueblo community of parents and teachers are a unified and blended entity. Our Pueblo community values education, and life at Pueblo extends beyond the school gates. It's rare these days to find such a neighborhood school, but since our family found Pueblo, we feel like we have our very own small town tucked in a city with a population of 243,000 people. Viva Pueblo!
Are there any board members who wish to respond to the extent permitted to do so? All right, I do have a response to the speaker who used my name and referred to comments that I made at the last board meeting. That representation was manipulated and were lies. I do not know the speaker, and despite he speaking as if he knows me, which would suggest that your harsh judgments say a lot more about you than they do me. We are going to move on to the consent agenda. Oh, no, pardon me, information and discussion items. Our first item, 8A, SUSD transportation update. Ms. Crozier and Mr. Jacobson.
Am I good? Okay. Good evening, President Hartwells, Vice President Lindsay, members of the board, Dr. Menzel, and guests. Tonight, Mr. Jacobson and I are here to kind of give an update of transportation and some things that we have been working on over the last couple of years to increase bus drivers and just make sure that we're getting kids to and from school safely. This kind of started in last June. We gave an update on some transportation issues that were happening, and at that time, we're asked to provide an update to the board this fall, which is why we're here tonight. This kind of just gives information about our current staffing and routes. So at this time, we have 50 general education routes, 9 special education routes that we transport ourselves as a district. We have 166 students on contracted services. What's huge about that is significantly less than what we had in the past, like by half. We know that number is going to fluctuate some. We know it's early in the year and students will be going through the IEP process with administration, so that number could change some. But at this time, I'm really hopeful that we don't see the number that we had last year and that number is quite a bit less. So we're excited about that. Over the summer, Mr. Jacobson was looking at various co-ops and RFPs that were done by other districts on other options out there for transportation services. There are some that were approved that we are just not willing to, they just don't meet a standard that we're willing to bring forward. But we are looking at bringing a potential vendor to the board later this October as another option for transportation services. Just to give an idea, we do transport 5,129 students. We're doing better. We've got 55 bus driver positions filled. Still got positions open, so I'm going to give a plug. If you want to drive a bus, we are taking applications right now. Excitingly, though, we've hired 8 new bus drivers since July, so we're really excited about that. And so far, knock on wood, we have not had anybody retire or resign, so that's a big deal. I did send the board quite a bit of information on some things that we have done over the last several years to try to address the shortage of bus drivers. This is nationwide. It's not a Scottsdale thing. It's not an Arizona thing. But we have tried really hard to do everything we possibly could to get drivers in the door and taking care of our students so we don't have to contract that out. A lot of that has been taking a look at what are our wages. I provided information on ours as well as other districts, and I feel good about where we're at. I feel like we offer a competitive wage. But when you look at our wage right now is, I had it and I just lost it. What is it, 20?
2064, 27?
It's over 2064, 2074 in that range. When you look at, and I just got this from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, when you look at a heavy truck driver making $26 an hour, or bus drivers in general outside of school districts making $28. We've made big strides. We've increased it quite a bit, but as you can tell, you know, there's lots of other opportunities to utilize those skills and make a higher wage. And not necessarily include driving through the city with, 60, 70 children behind you. So we keep working on that. We've offered some different signing bonuses and longevity stipends. What we've really found is they don't quite work as well as we would hope. The best thing that we found is we do drive-in sign events. And when we have the media out there, that's when we pick up 6, 7 applications. We picked up, 3? Just because David did a plug about making sure you stop when that stop sign is out on the media, and was able to get in the, hey, come work for us, we're hiring drivers. And we ended up with 3 applications off of that. So we know that is our best way to get that out, but we'll keep working on getting those drivers. I think one of the things when we're talking about transportation is to understand what does it require to be a driver. And it's not just that you have to have a CDL license, which is a more stringent license, has more requirements. It also has stricter fines and penalties if you do something in your personal car with a CDL. There's bus endorsements. There's training that has to happen every year. There's air brake endorsements. You have to be certified with DPS, drug screenings. So there's a lot that goes along with getting the license needed to be able to transport children. I thought this was interesting. I didn't necessarily love the title of the article, but I was really excited to see that ours were not too bad. It was talking about accidents on the buses and that there was a rise in that. Again, I was happy to see that ours was not one of those on the rise. But I thought it was really interesting that she pointed out that previously, in 2020, there was an estimated 8,600 drivers statewide, and now that's down to 5,600. That's quite a bit over the state that it's decreased. We see this a lot with our own drivers. They're already retired and are looking for something to do during the day. So that, aged, older drivers, the time that we have with them is going to be a little bit less than having younger drivers. So I thought those were a couple of interesting facts when we were looking at what are some of the things that are happening with transportation and why can't we get these drivers? We did earlier this year, we've got 2 service providers that we are using within the district right now for contracted services. David and I talked and said, we need to understand how our parents feel about those services and what that looks like. So we talked to Dr. Menzel and worked to put a survey out to the families that are on those services to get their ideas and thoughts on how that's working, if it's good, it's bad, what needs fixed. Unfortunately, with every survey, not a lot of people participate in it. I think if you're doing a survey, you're either really happy or you're really mad, one of the two. But we were really happy with some of the things that we did see. We sent for Care Transit 199 families. One of the things to know with Care Transit is we had another visitor, Comtrans, last year. They went out of business. Care Transit took all of those students for us. So the survey results were pretty, they were okay. There were some unhappy situations. I think the biggest thing that happened for us this year with them is that they took on a little bit more than they could possibly handle right at the beginning when it all hits. And so the biggest struggle we had with them is just I know David on Sunday before school started was on the phone with them going, we got to get these kids and, we got to let families know who's picking up, when we're picking up, where they're going, how this is working. So we're a little behind on getting that information out. I think that was just the growing pain struggle of the company taking on a little bit more than what they could deal with at first. That, I believe, we feel has been ironed out. Things are getting better, communication is getting better. So I think that was just a little bumpy start, but gave us ideas of what we need to do in the future to make sure that we're better prepared for that at the start of school. Hop skip, not a lot of families with them. We sent it out to 41, only 10 responded. It's about the same responses we got from Care Transit. And again, the response we got is that overall people were satisfied with that service. Again, one of the things was, it'd be helpful to know some of the information a little bit earlier and know a little bit more of when drivers are going to change. So with that, we will open it up to any questions about transportation.
Governing board members, are there any questions or comments? Ms. Carney.
Thank you. I look forward to the next meeting and what you'll be bringing us for an additional vendor. But I'm just wondering about communication with parents. How have you been communicating with parents as far as letting them know about canceling the trips? This is something I had talked about before because those trips do cost us. And so have you put out proactive communication to parents this school year, letting them know, the expectations and what to do? Because I have not seen anything as a special education parent myself. So I'm wondering, did we or do we plan to kind of send out a briefing to parents on their special education transportation?
We didn't send out anything from the district, but I know with Hop Skip, it comes out in the app when we sign your student up, it comes out through the app, and it's in that app how to cancel a ride. And I'm finding with all our vendors that there is a fee if they don't cancel. Most of them are that 2-hour window. There's only one that has cut that to a 1 hour, and that's Care Transit. But all the others have a 2-hour window. If they don't cancel, that we have to pay that ride.
Yeah.
I will add to that, bringing up that question, we also had the question because we know, we just recently went with Hop Skip Drive with them having the cameras in the vehicles. I think that we could definitely put out a communication just reminding parents we have their email addresses. We could absolutely put out that communication of just a reminder of, please, if you're not going to use the service, if your child is out that day, please make sure that you cancel that service so the district isn't charged for it. And then also letting the families on Hop Skip know that the new security enhancement will have recordings in the car.
Yeah.
One other thing on that, I can tell you we do get a report of frequent call-outs. And when we see, there's more than 3, we start making phone calls, hey, what's going on? And then we remind them at that time too, please call out your student, so we get that message at that point too.
Okay. I think it'd just be great if we can get a proactive communication out, and do tell that there are cameras in the cars now, because I think that's something parents should know, and I think it's a good thing. But I think that was my only thing I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Those were, I think, very good points. That's good. I have shared this to you both directly, but I want to share publicly, and that is, I really appreciate all the efforts that you and the entire team have made. This is as you mentioned, it's an ongoing challenge. A lot of the factors are outside of the district's control, but I think you've honed in to do what you can, and press those levers where you can, and it shows. I think there's some demonstrable progress. There's always room for improvement, and I do think that I would second Ms. Carney's requests about parent communications and where we might be able to improve there.
Absolutely.
Any other comments or questions, board members? No, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We're moving on to item 8B. First read, the governing board policy BBBA regarding board member qualifications. Mr. Buzan.
Is this thing on? Good evening, Board President Dr. Hartwells, Vice President Lindsay, members of the board, Dr. Menzel, and Mrs. Wagner. Apologize for being long-winded. I just had a cup of tea, and it was very good. Thank you to the catering tonight was very good. I kid, though, I don't intend to be long at all. On this one, first read, Governing Board Policy BBBA. Just a little update. We will be doing a comprehensive policy manual review with the ASBA staff later this month. This BBBA is something that is relatively simple. It comes from this year's legislation. You'll note that not everything from this year's legislation is up for first read this time around. The reason this one is because it was so simple and really just adds to the policy something that's in statute and makes it compliant. You can see there that and I'll just tell you the statutory. So the legislature this year amended 15302 and 15421, which prohibits a appointment or election of a governing board member with that is a registered sex offender. So this is the first read of that. Are there any questions? All right. And I'm going to be up here for a couple, so if you'd like, I can move
Yes.
on.
Next item 8C, first read governing board policy JFB regarding open enrollment.
So this is another statutory amendment. House Bill 2311 amended 15816.01, making it a option for school districts to give enrollment preference to children of a member of the armed forces of the United States who's either on active duty or was killed in the line of duty. So I included this in JFB. I think we have to scroll down a little bit. You can see there it's essentially just giving the administration the opportunity to prioritize these students for open enrollment purposes. Are there any questions?
I see none. Let's go ahead and move on to 8D, first read governing board policy JHD regarding exclusions and exemptions from school attendance.
So this policy is specifically for students with chronic health conditions who may need additional support while at home by the school district. And there is a whole line of exhibits with this in a regulation. I apologize. I submitted this for review tonight prior to speaking with our head nurse, Renee Tosto. Did she leave? And so she and I are continuing to work on this, and I actually would like to amend it after speaking with her. So that's the note. But if there are any questions, essentially this is just compliant with 15346, which is the statute.
Board members, any questions or comments? Just to clarify, Mr. Buzon, so the amendment is to comply with the most current state law?
Correct. It's to essentially mirror the state law.
Okay. And you will be having a conversation, for those of you that don't know, that's our head nurse, right? To make sure that there is alignment with the nurses across the district.
Correct.
With this policy. And I would just ask that you give us plenty of time to review any changes to the first read before the second read, please. Thank you. Any other
Absolutely.
comments or questions? Nope, very good. All right, item 8E, first read governing board policy KEB regarding public concerns or complaints about personnel. Mr. Buzon.
Thank you. So I'll just wait for it to go up there. So KEB is a policy that enables a community member to make a complaint to the district if they have a problem with personnel, employees, and there's a regulation and also exhibit form for that. The policy the recommendation is really for liability purposes. It's to meet the goal of the board which is to attract and retain. So KEB is just here for your first read. I know there was a request from a board member that is included in there in this main paragraph. Essentially, what this does is provide a little bit more into the process, a little more guidance to the administration in determining how to handle an initial complaint. And also, the last piece of it would be that if the complaint is really better lodged against the school district or against the governing board, that the complaint would be limited to not be brought against an individual employee.
Governing board members, any questions or comments? Ms. Sinowski.
Thank you, President Dr. Hartwells. And Mr. Buzan, I appreciate this coming forward. So this, in the future, we're not wasting staff time or delaying board business based on complaints or potential issues based on hearsay within the community, that these are actually factually based, and that would be the role of the superintendent to determine that. Is that correct? Any such complaint coming forward?
Yes, that is
Yes.
that is correct.
Okay, so it would not be based on hearsay or representation of someone else?
Well, hearsay sometimes can lead to an investigation that actually needs to be,
Sure, but it wouldn't
reviewed.
come to the governing board at that level based on hearsay.
It would provide, this policy, if amended in this way, would provide the superintendent and the administration to resolve complaints without proceeding the governing board if they don't meet this threshold.
Thank you.
Ms. Carney.
Thank you. Can I just ask, did you write this language, this addition to this policy, or was it in conjunction with someone?
I crafted this. I talked with Dr. Menzel over it as well, and also made sure that I gave due diligence to looking over last comments at the last board meeting. I know Ms. Sinowski had made a comment about something that she wanted to be included in here, and I believe that's the extent of the people that were involved.
Okay, do any other districts have this language, or did you pull from any other sources for this, or is this specific here to Scottsdale Unified?
It's interesting. For KEB, for those that use the Arizona School Board's policies, most of them are what we currently have. The Arizona Risk and Retention Trust, in their new model, they do not have a similar complaint. So that's been crafted more recently by people that practice school law, primarily, and they opted not to include this type of complaint in their procedural manual. So those are the two sources that I reviewed.
Okay, I just think we need to be careful about retaliatory policy changes because nothing has been brought to the board that has been just hearsay, and I think that people have a right to be heard, and we need to be careful about limiting their speech. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'll just clarify, one of the impetus, I don't know that hearsay is the right word, but secondary information, if you're advocating on behalf of someone else anonymously, I don't think that's what this process was necessarily designed to do, but rather someone who is aggrieved directly as a primary source. Is correct? That's what the intent, as I read it, for the added language in paragraph 3.
I would agree with that statement, and I would also add that really the thrust of making this change and really adding a little bit of guidance to the administration is to protect the employees.
Yes.
The policy already includes due process components, but I think this just adds that the complainant do what's required in civil law across the country, which is to specify what your issue is with that particular individual, which I think is a due process, goes to the due process that's required that the district should be providing to the employees.
Thank you, Mr. Buzan. All right, if there's no question, Ms. Sinowski, are you headed to your microphone? Nope, all right. You may sit down, Mr. Buzan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Sanowski seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? That motion passes 5-0. We are now moving on to the action items. We will skip to item 10B since we have already approved item 10A. Item 10B, the approval of the fiscal year 23-24 annual financial report. Ms. Crozier.
Yes, thank you. Again, good evening, President Hartwells, Vice President Lindsay, members of the board, Dr. Menzel, and guest. This tonight is a look at how our financials ended last year and the totals of where we were last year with our spending. I want to give a huge shout out to our Director of Finance, Lisa Martinez, and our Budget Manager, Mario Cerna. They spent hours and hours and days cleaning things up, making sure things were clean. I don't even know, I lost count on how many times they had to scrub everything and start over in the last week. So huge shout out to them and their team because this is, between this and the school by school report, it is a beast of a report. So with that, we'll take a look. This is just a summary of the year. Our average daily membership was 19,757. Base support or amount per student was $4,914.71. That gave us a budget of $192.8 million. One of the things to keep in mind with that budget for last year is that the state did allocate one-time dollars that got it one time, won't happen again. And so that was about $5.4 million, and I'll talk about that in a second as we look at what that will be spent on. M&O budget is a budget account. So when you're looking at the summary pages, there's two things that it'll show. It'll show a budget amount, and it'll show a budget carry forward amount. And those are two different things to keep in mind. The budget amount, budget balance is how much money we can roll over into next year and how much gets added to our budget to move forward as we spend. We've already factored that in. We anticipated doing the $5.4 million of one-time monies, as well as about $14 million in carry forward. As you can see, we rolled over the 5.4 for one-time monies. That's actually going to get spent here pretty soon. I'm excited to say on October 7th, we'll be issuing about $3 million of that, 3.4, to our employees in a stipend that they will see prorated by FTE. $2 million of that will then go towards helping with the insurance costs, and that will spend those dollars. The carry forward, we anticipated being about $14 million, came in a little bit lower than that. Things just cost more, and our schools and departments are, one, filling positions more so, which is good, but things just cost more, so they're spending more of their budgets. It's not a horrible thing, it just means we don't carry over as much as we thought we were going to, and that can have impacts down the road. But we do know that as a district, we're just spending more because things just cost more. Then we have our cash balance. Cash balance, regardless of how much is there, it doesn't impact our budget. If there's excess cash, that's great, we have more cash. If there's a deficit, it means we might not have enough cash in the bank to cover warrants and would have to do TANs or lines of credit. But that doesn't give us any additional. At the end of this year, you will see on the summary page that our cash balance was $29.9 million. What that really does is we need 18.6 to cover our carry forward. If you take the 29.9 minus the 8.6, that leaves you with 11.2 in excess. We anticipated around 10-ish, that's what we've had, so this was pretty much in line with what we were thinking. But that will help us as the state, as Maricopa is doing Plaza Meyer refunds as we speak. So that is a little bit more towards that than we estimated low and hope for a little bit better. So capital budget was $36.4 million. Capital budget balance was $13.4. We had several projects that were pretty extensive, couldn't get them finished by June 30th, and so they're gonna roll into this year, and those dollars will roll over, we'll finish those projects. So that's why that balance is a little bit higher than I'd like to see. Federal projects was $28 million, and the budget balance on that is $2.9. I'm happy to say that we have closed out ESSER and used up all of ESSER $3, so ESSER is now over, which is good because technically it ended yesterday anyways. we wrapped it up in fiscal year '24. This is just an estimate on classroom spending. The report from the state won't come out until March 1st, but we try to go, okay, where do we think we're going to land on that? We're usually fairly close, maybe a little 0.01, 02 off on some of those. That's about where we think it's going to be. It's pretty similar to where we've been, so that's what our estimate is. You know, we still can keep working on the classroom spending in total, and we will keep looking at that. The bulk of our budget is M&O, so I kind of focused on M&O and some things that we've generally shared this information the last couple of years. Salaries and benefits is 86% of our budget, and then utilities makes up another 5%. So 91% of our budget is really about people and keeping the utilities on in the classroom so that we can educate students and take care of them, which means it doesn't leave a lot left for other things because the bulk of our budget is truly people. I do want to point out purchase services. I looked at that and went, wow, that's a lot. I do want you to know that a lot of that comes down to our SROs, and that's a few million is out of purchase services. Our ABM cleaning is over $3 million, so that's within purchase services. And then ESI phased retirement employees are all paid out of purchase services. So I know that looks like a really large number when you start to factor in that it's the SROs we have on campuses, that cleaning services for all of our campuses and sites, and phased retirement. It's not as scary of a number. And then the last one within our salaries is broken out by certified, classified, and admin. 66% of our M&O salaries are certified, 21 classified, and 13 being admin. Admin including principals, assistant principals, admin across the district. The AFR and school-by-school report will be loaded on our district website tomorrow morning. It will be uploaded to ADE and available on our website. The school-by-school report is a really complicated beast with a lot of information that can be incredibly overwhelming. So what I would say is if you want to look at those things, the best way to look at it is either click on the tab for single, and you can just look at a single school. There's a drop down, you pick your school, and it provides that information. It looks at every fund, bond, M&O, gifts, donations, tax credits. Every fund is within that. And so that has that information, or the comparison tab will allow you to pick multiple schools. You can't pick, you can only do a few of them at a time, but that gives the option if you want to compare like school to like school to see how that compares. But that is a report that you can get lost in for hours with data. So with that, I will open it up to questions.
Thank you, Shannon. Board members, any questions or comments for Ms. Crozier? I see none. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I move to approve the fiscal year 23-24 annual financial report. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Sanowski seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Moving on to action item 10C. Approval of certified and special service providers performance pay. This is the 301 plan for 2024-2025. Dr. Cruz.
Good evening, Governing Board President Dr. Hartwells, Vice President Lindsay, Governing Board members Dr. Menzel and Ms. Wagner. We're very happy to be up here in front of you this evening presenting our performance pay plan for our certified staff. I would like to just take a moment and thank our committee that worked very, very diligently on this plan. We started clear back in June, and most of our committee members weren't even on contract. And so I want to thank them for their time that they gave over the summer towards this. I also want to applaud the dedication to get this plan to the finish line early rather than bring this clear in the spring so that we're able to get it out to our employees and they know exactly what they need to do to earn their performance pay. And then I just want to acknowledge and publicly thank TJ Buckley and our SEA association and all of their members. They were really critical to the success of this plan, getting pushed to the finish line. So we really thank their collaboration. Without their participation and collaboration, just not possible. So thank you so much for your help. I now want to turn it over to Miss Amy Goff, our Director of Human Resources, and she's going to present the plan tonight.
Well, I'll start. It will come back on. Good evening, President Dr. Hart-Wells, Vice President Lindsay, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Menzel and Gladys. Thank you for hearing our presentation tonight. We are thrilled to share with you our plan and how it came about. So it will come up in a moment here. So we're going to start with the committee and the purpose. Thank you, Dr. Cruz, for the introduction. I do want to reiterate our appreciation for our SEA leadership and our committee. Wonderful work that we did. It really was a one-team effort to communicate, modify, and create a plan that suited the needs of our certified employees and promoted performance and professional growth. Our committee's goals were to ensure a plan complied with new components for evaluation based on our Danielson framework for teaching and learning. The former plan was comprised of two portions, evaluation and district performance. The former plan relied on Arizona Department of Education letter grades for a portion of our payment. So this delayed our payment until early November for 40%. Here it comes. All right. Thank you. All right. So an interest of many of our certified employees was to ensure our new proposal could provide payment to qualified employees as soon as possible. The committee wanted the plan to promote professional growth and collaboration and align to what we value and prioritize in the district. Last but not least, Arizona Revised Statute 15977 requires a 70% approval rate for our qualified employees. All right. So to inform all our qualified employees, we began a journey in August to share our proposed plan and gather feedback from our qualified employees. August 22nd, the proposed plan was shared with site leaders to inform them of the changes and gather feedback. At the same time, our SEA president, TJ Buckley, began communicating the plan and obtaining feedback from SEA leadership, membership, and qualified employees. The plan was then finalized based on the feedback that we received. From August 27th till September 11th, site leaders, teacher leaders, and special service provider leads communicated the plan with all qualified employees. A PowerPoint was provided to sites with a voiceover to explain details of the plan. The detailed plan was made accessible to all, and an FAQ was created for reference. We are so proud to announce that out of 1,435 qualified employees, 1,334 of those took the time to vote. Of those who voted, 1,231 voted in approval of the plan, making it a 92% approval rate. In the next 3 slides, I'm going to take you briefly through the 2024-2025 proposed Certified Performance Pay Plan. A copy of the full plan has been included as an attachment to tonight's action items. Per Arizona Revised Statute 15537, teachers are required to be evaluated on a classification system that includes highly effective, effective, developing, and ineffective ratings. Teacher classification will account for 20% of their pay. Per statute, the criteria requires quantitative data to measure 20 to 33% of that outcome. So our plan is going to be based on the 2 components for this 20% of the payment. The teacher evaluation rating based on the 10 components of our Danielson framework, and then our ELA and math growth data based on ADE Connect median growth percentiles. The second portion is our new portion of the plan. So this is in lieu of our district performance from before. And this is 80% of the payment will be based on professional development and professional learning community activities. Qualifying professional development includes time where certified employees are actively learning and able to apply their learning to their position. Most of this will be accomplished on early release days and in the district pre-week. An additional 10 hours is required to spend time with their professional learning communities. This time is focused on data-driven planning and decision-making. Credit for these 10 hours can also be included for focused team time. Teachers will monitor their progress and share their records with their site leader during their final evaluation conference. Finally, our special service providers, which are listed up there, are evaluated a bit differently. They are not required to have a teacher classification, so their 20% is based on their evaluation alone. In addition, their collaboration time looks a little bit different. So through a lot of communication with our special service provider leads, we established that their requirement is 34 total hours. And with that, that concludes our presentation to you. The final requirement of our statute 15977 does require governing board approval. So we want to again say we're so proud of our one-team effort to create the plan and our very high approval rate. So thank you for your consideration. And with that, do you have any questions?
Governing board members, any questions or comments? Ms. Sanowski.
Thank you, President Dr. Hartwells. Question on the professional development. Does that also include collegiate courses, coursework, and conferences?
Yeah, so the professional development that's counted is the time that can also be counted for recertification
Okay.
hours. If they are using it for horizontal movement, it won't double dip.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? I just want to thank both of you, Dr. Cruz, for answering my questions in advance of this evening. I appreciate that. With that, I move to approve the Certified and Special Service Providers Performance Pay 301 plan for 2024-25. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Sanowski seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are moving on to action item 10D, approval of superintendent annual performance-based pay plan. Just want to point out to the board members, are we going to show that on the screen for folks? That'd be great. Thank you for the community. Take a look at it. Just highlighting changes relative to previous years. There was additional weighting added to the academic cohort where the change was so that each of the KPIs that are listed as sub-elements in the academic achievement are each equally weighted at 15%. So that bolstered the academic achievement weighting to 75% rather than 70%, and that extra 5% came out of removing the enhance expand partnership category, which I think the district has done an excellent job, as proven this evening, with our new shared agreement with the Boys and Girls Club. And those efforts, that doesn't mean they're not important. Those will continue. Those are still KPIs for the district, just not part of the performance plan. Any questions or comments? Dr. Menzel, would you like to say anything?
Happy to answer any questions. We did try to, as Dr. Hartwell said, put more weighting in the academic component, plus it's aligned with the wildly important goals. So thinking about our three related to math, attendance, and increased enrollment, those are all reflected here.
Thank you. Vice President Lindsay?
Yeah, I was emailing with Dr. Menzel earlier, and I know, can you speak to the board on the enrollment aspect? Because my understanding, we're already over on that goal by 46 kids. and if you consider that a true stretch goal.
So Vice President Lindsay was asking questions related to the 1%, and really the way that that wildly important goal was framed was looking at growth between grades 1 and 12. So when you look at our data historically, just as a reminder, we have a large graduating class, a smaller incoming kindergarten class, and that delta is pretty significant. So a year ago, there was about a 465 student growth in between the numbers, 1st to 12th. So if you eliminate the bookends and look at that growth in between, we increase student enrollment, and that is consistent with the cohort data we've been monitoring over time. So as we were thinking about the wildly important goal this year and setting the targets, we identified 1%, in part looking at what our historical trends had been, and we wanted to demonstrate growth between the numbers, but it also set something that's achievable. And so in talking with Dr. Bachna, looking at the numbers where we are now and where we might be on the 100th day, currently we are 46 students over that goal of 185. If you compare last year, 40th day to the 100th day, we lost 22 students between that period of time. And if we had this same wildly important goal last year as we had this year, we would have missed the 1% growth in between the two. So the way the wildly important goal is framed is to ensure not only that, at this point in time where we are just before the end of the first quarter, we're meeting it, but by the time we get to January 21st, we've retained or grown that enrollment. So our goal is ultimately to do more. We're having the conversations. Our marketing expo on November 21st is designed to create interest and grow enrollment. We would really like to blow this goal out of the water. But when you look at where we were last year, if we had the same goal, we would not have met it. And so we felt like it was an appropriate place to put the target.
Thank you, Dr. Menzel. Just to clarify, so the relative, the 1%, the increased attendance rate to 93% or better is as of the 100th day.
Not increasing the attendance rate. This is the enrollment goal. So it's increased by 185 between those cohorts.
There we go. Okay.
So 18,660 or greater
On the 100th day.
in those numbers by that date.
Okay.
And so we right now we're over that by 46 students.
Right.
If we looked at the trend last year, we wouldn't have met the same performance target. And so that's why we thought it was appropriate. 1% may seem low. Ultimately, we want to do better. But that was where why the WIG was established where it was.
Okay, again, so as of January 21st, 2025.
Yes.
All right, very good. Somebody else had their Ms. Carney, yes.
Thank you. So last year, on August 22nd, 2023, the board had a superintendent performance-based pay plan goal-setting information discussion item where we had robust discussion, and we were each able to weigh in on the superintendent goals and performance pay. Yet this year, there's no discussion with the board on this. So how was this proposal compiled without board member input?
So the process last year and this year was tied to the establishment of the key performance indicators. And then out of the conversation with the key performance indicators, we developed the superintendent and cabinet performance goals. Cabinet came early. We needed to see, one, was the governing board going to approve the KPIs and the wildly important goals? And if so, how that would look with the cabinet performance indicators. Those were approved at the last meeting. We used the same template that was used for the last few years, and then incorporated what the board had approved with the wildly important goals and KPIs. Governing board has complete discretion here, so you can make changes, suggestions, alter or modify these with 3 votes at the board dais. There were no questions that were raised outside of the ones that Governing Board Member Lindsay did earlier today, and those that I had in conversation with Dr. Hartwells. But I am open anytime to have conversation with Governing Board members about questions on any agenda item.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why the process is totally different this time, because as the superintendent is supposed to hear the goals and the input of the board, and then assimilate our comments and bring it back to the board for decision-making. So I'm just a little confused on this is the way that this is going, because last year I'd asked for 75% weight for academic achievement last year, so I mean, I agree with that higher total weight that you've come to for this year, but there was no board discussion on this, and this has come to us as just an action item this year.
Well, this is an opportunity to discuss it. Are there changes you would like to see? As Dr. Menzel indicated, these are derived directly from board-approved WIGs and KPIs. So if there's something you'd like to see changed, this is a time to do that. We can do that now.
Right, obviously, but last time we had a lengthy discussion, and we sat around and had a good discussion and came to a collaborative result, and then we had an action item later. I'm just pointing out the fact that this is not what's
Okay, so
happening
you're
at all.
concerned that you can't discuss, but you have an opportunity to discuss now. So is there anything you'd like to change, Ms. Carney?
No.
Any other questions? Ms. Sinowski?
Thank you, Board President Dr. Hartwells. For clarity and understanding with the public, when we all sat at the MDA and provided feedback, identifying our goals, I thought that was part of this process of identifying what the superintendent's performance pay goals would be as well. Is that an accurate statement?
So it has always been the case that the superintendent has drafted the goals based on information provided by the board and the goals that were set related to the key performance indicators for the district. Then that comes forward to the governing board for review. This is a month later than we would normally like. We only had one meeting in September, and the timing of approval of the KPI and the WIGs was off by a month, and so it's later than usual. But the process is very similar to what had happened in the past. We didn't feel like it needed 2 meetings unless the governing board thinks they need more time to think about it, given all of the conversation that was that had taken place with respect to the wildly important goals and the KPIs.
Any other questions or comments? Vice President Lindsay, did you have any modifications to the enrollment metric you'd like to offer?
No,
Okay.
I didn't think we were all aware that we're over 46 already, so I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of it.
Okay, thank you. Noted. Noted. Any other comments or questions? All right. Given none, I move to approve the superintendent annual performance-based pay plan as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Sinowski seconds. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay.
Abstain for lack of information and input.
Abstain.
So abstaining is not a no vote. Abstained means you're not making an effort to vote. So 3-0, that motion passes. Thank you. We're moving to action item 10E, second read and approval, the governing board policy DJE regarding bidding, purchasing procedures. Mr. Buzan.
Good evening again. This is our second read of DJE. And I know the last time I was here on DJE, I requested the board provide comments, and some of you did. We incorporated those. The black line that's on the screen here has Dr. Hartwell's comments were baked in, kind of has a weird connotations, but they are included in the policy here. I don't recall them being all that substantive. I think it was mostly formatting edits. This here note that I put suggested by Board President Dr. Hartwells was just was a formatting issue. It states in each instance where it didn't say that before. But the gist of this policy suggestion is to provide a clear line in which governing board approval is required. The policy, without this amendment, doesn't have a clear line. It discusses the Arizona State procurement law and those requirements, but it doesn't say exactly what the governing board will approve. It also requires what's a current practice, which is to provide authority for all the different cooperative purchasing entities annually. So you'll see another edit here. I had previously called this procurement units, and then I talked to our director of procurement, and he suggested the word entities. and then we added an and there. And one change, which I agreed with, which was to take out the word given and have submitted to the governing board. So this ratification piece, note that this would be for items that went beyond the $150,000 limit. Now that limit is something that we came to by looking at different policies around the state, and actually note that I don't recall the exact source, but there was a request to the Arizona State Procurement Board. Want to add some clarity here, Shannon?
Yes, there is a group of school districts that meet to discuss procurement issues and training and whatnot. And they've been working with the state of Arizona procurement to look at so right now the threshold is 100,000. That is you have to do RFPs and bids, and they're looking at should that dollar amount be increased. It hasn't been changed in a number of years. And as we all know, things just cost a whole lot more than they used to. And so they're looking at increasing that quite significantly, actually. But we felt for the time being that the 150 was more in line with where districts are at now, and it could always be modified down the road if the state changed something.
So the question, like I said, the impetus for this was to get clear direction to the administration on when governing board approval is required. That sort of cuts the other way and says, well, what's going to be happening? What oversight is there of that amount of expenditures below the 150,000? So we had a request that board members Carney and Warner both requested. And is it possible to go to the info sheet? It's not included in here, but I'm going to show what that request was for the governing board's benefit, maybe. I might not be able to show it on here, but I have it. You can all see it. Essentially, the language would require the superintendent to provide the board, and I believe it says the public, a detailed account of all expenditures made within the authorized limit to the board and public each month. So Ms. Crozier and I looked at that today to see what exactly this would require, whether it could be accomplished or not. We believe it could be accomplished and would provide that oversight function that the board would be looking for to ascertain what expenditures were occurring below 150,000, and then and this is nothing against Dr. Menzel or anybody on the board, but when you make governing board policy, you want it to be good policy for any individual, and the governing board oversees the superintendent. I think this is kind of appropriate considering you just went over a performance pay plan. And in order to provide that oversight, I think having a detailed account of all expenditures made within the authorized limit makes sense. And so if this were included in there, I would include it in DJE. Oh, there it is. Required monthly reporting. So it seems to be a rational addition to the policy, and I will stand for questions.
Board members, any questions or comments? Ms. Carney?
Thank you. Okay, I need you to help me understand the third part there in under governing board approval, the purchases from cooperatives 150,000 or more by commodity and contract number. The district shall provide estimated amounts above 150,000 to the governing board by commodity. So can you help me understand how it currently works now is that all contracts under the cooperative are brought to the board to approve, right? So, for example, on May 14th, that we approved the SAVE cooperative contracts, and there were 40 of them listed. And my concern is if we, or I don't know if it's my concern, but it's my question is if this policy is implemented, 25 of those would not be listed on the agenda anymore for approval because they would be below the $150,000 threshold.
Are you
Is that
saying that
correct?
there, on that May 14th agenda, there were items under, were
Yeah.
they under 100,000 though?
Under 150,000.
Well, the
What you have
practice,
listed here.
the practice has been over 100,000.
Well, there's,
That's been the
no, there's
practice in
a
the
lot of them that are under 100,000.
Under 100,000?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's my concern, is that putting in this language changes everything. We would not, right now, we see all contracts that come under that cooperative, correct? Or,
Shannon?
Yes. We had gotten into a practice of just putting everything on there with the dollar amount for cooperatives. What we would like to, and breaking it out by individual vendor and saying, you know, the cooperative, and I'm just going to use special services or special ed services. Even though there could be 15 different vendors within that cooperative that was approved, we were breaking it out by vendor. And as we all know, that came back to be really problematic for us. What we'd like to do is say, for say the SAVE contract number 1234 for special ed contracted services, list the vendors that are approved within that contract, and then give a full dollar amount. We were bringing things that were below even the $100,000 mark, and that really comes back to there was not clear direction on what should and shouldn't go. Normally, you would never see that at a district. It would always be, I mean, even at the 100,000, anything below $100,000, you wouldn't normally see. We were just bringing everything, and so we're really just looking for clarification. I think with giving the reports monthly of these are all of the vendors and what we've paid, and I believe we talked about between, and it might need clarification here, but between $10,000 and $150,000 would bring that forth. But really to be able to ease some of there's a heavy burden on purchasing right now because our software system isn't tracking it. And so they're literally on an Excel sheet tracking everything and how much has been approved. We would like to move to, it would be, if it was under 150,000, the co-op would come, but the actual vendors under 150 would not be on there. I mean, that's obviously up for the board to discuss, but we would like to move to grouping it and giving a total amount for that agreement versus individualized vendors within the co-op agreement, if that makes sense.
okay, yeah. I absolutely don't agree with that. I think we need to take that piece out of this policy because we should have more transparency than less, and I don't think this has caused any problem. This has been a best practice of ours. And I don't think it's a big deal. It's allowed us to actually pull off like K-12 Insights or Capstone or whatever things we want to have more discussion on, and we are able to have more transparency that way. I don't think we can go to this where we don't see anything under 150,000 a contract. I just don't agree with that and don't see any need for that.
You could certainly amend, make these changes to policy DJE and amend it to exclude that third paragraph in line and also the and. The purpose of articulating it this way, other than the dollar amount, was to, it's definitely a shift in practice, but just to put it out there was that currently this is not in policy. So, that's why we're bringing it for the board to give guidance to, because in reviewing all of this, the question is going to say, well, what did the administration have to provide to the board? And currently, under current policy, it's not clear. And so this would make it clear. I think taking the dollar out, we could also craft it in a way that it's the current practice, right? Which would just be all purchases from cooperatives, if that's what it needed to say, that would be our current practice.
Yeah, I will say that for our RFPs, we currently only bring them if they're for 100,000 or more for the RFPs. I mean, generally you don't do an RFP unless it's going to be that amount, but if we do one and it's going to be less, or our request for quotes, if they're under 100,000, those per our board policy have not come to the board. It's just been the cooperatives, and we were just listing everything because we're trying to look at in light of not having guidance, that we have the guidance, so as a department, as the purchasing department, we know exactly what the governing board wants, and we can meet those requirements.
Yeah, I think it's important that all cooperative contracts come to the board as they have been, and we strike that part of the policy.
Strike, you said that. Can you,
Well,
just for
I've been
clarity,
speaking
the
on the
language.
purchases from cooperatives of 150,000 or more.
How would
by
you amend the
commodity.
language specifically, so we can all sink our teeth
In
into
each
it?
instance, the governing board shall approve all purchases from cooperatives.
By commodity and contract number? You want to excise the,
Yeah, that's been normal, that's been typical practice.
I'm asking you how you want to specifically amend this language. Just want to make sure that everyone understands what they'd be voting on.
That's fine, I'm open for the discussion on that. So that's the purchases from cooperatives by commodity and contract number, which has been our current practice.
Ms. Kruger, do you have?
We found ourselves in, as the board knows, a situation last year because of how we were listing them by each actual vendor. The amounts that we can spend with a vendor could change every year depending on what services we need and who can provide those services. So my wonder would be, with the cooperatives, if we could still group those by commodity and a dollar amount by commodity versus each individual vendor, would be helpful for how much we have to bring back to the board if things need to. It helps us with tracking, but it also helps to note, like I said, some of the vendors, we might use more with Maxim this year, or we might use more a different year with a different vendor, just depending on what they could possibly provide. We're trying to get off of those services, but at the end of the day, there are times that being limited within the co-op to a specific vendor also can put us in quite a bind.
Yeah, well, the one you just named is already general without a specific amount to it. So we do already have that for, that's under the SUSD contracts. But we have so many cooperatives that we use, I just don't think it's good practice to now all of a sudden not be transparent with what these contracts are. There's way too many vendors in these cooperatives, and so I would like to see us keep the typical practice. And there is language in there where it states that, I mean, you don't have to come back to the board unless it's over a certain threshold. And also, you've also taken out the not to exceed language, which I don't agree with, so it already says estimate. So I don't see this as a problem.
So you're in agreement with the second sentence there, the district shall provide estimated amounts above to the governing board? Or, because that's the language that we're trying to include, the estimated amount change.
Are you talking about the second one?
Yeah, the second sentence in that paragraph.
Yeah. I think it's putting that dollar amount on there that's never, we've never had that before, and that's a very high.
So the ratification
Threshold.
piece in the second paragraph there, the next paragraph is what we think fixes the problem of having to go over to fulfill services between when the governing board approved a certain amount and over. So I think that to not exceed amount or versus estimates to not exceed is somewhat resolved by the ratification procedure. And I think purchases from cooperatives, full stop, is kind of our practice now, it has been. Ms. Crozier saying that that's, has some problems to it, but it would be more than we currently have in policy, so I think it would still be a benefit.
I'm wondering, and the ratification, I don't recall seeing a percentage that we can go over before it has to be ratified, but maybe I've just missed that.
It says the superintendent is authorized to proceed above the estimated amount, provided the services or goods are necessary for the daily operation of the district, and that those actions will be submitted to the governing board at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
So as I read that, that if we're over the dollar amount by any amount, we would need to bring that back to be ratified. That, I just want to make sure that I'm.
That's right.
Understanding that
That's the
clearly.
intent of the language, yes.
You know, I think I want to make a motion to table this so we aren't rewriting the policy from the dais during the meeting. I think there's a lot here that still needs to be worked out, and so I'd like to make a motion to table this so we can.
I'm going to second that motion, and because I think that we're having a great conversation about this now. You and I have communicated. It seems that you've communicated with other board members, and this would be a great opportunity to come to consensus with a great policy. So I second that motion to table this policy.
So first of all, this is a second read, so there have been opportunities to discuss. You've had some comments. What isn't clear is what really is being asked. So without some specificity, continuing to drag this out doesn't help the district. They want guidance, and we need to give it. So if we table this, then each one of you need to get your comments in and be specific, not hand-waving complaining, specific. This is important for the operation of this district, and it's very important that this dollar amount be right or removed entirely, and I'm open to that. All right? This will come back on October 22nd if approved. The motion's on the table and seconded to table action item 10E. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed?
No.
That motion passes 4-1. We'll table. It will come back on October 22nd. Please get your comments in to Mr. Buzan post haste. All right, we are moving on now to item 11, governing board reports. Are there any folks that wish to provide a governing board report this evening? All right, none? All right.
Oh, actually, I did. Sorry.
Ms. Kearney, yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank all those that did come to the Safety and Security Town Hall. And I've already had people reach out to me asking for the YouTube video, so that was great that that was recorded and it is out there for anyone who does want to listen to that. And I would just encourage people to reach out on Let's Talk on our website if they do have more questions or concerns so that you can be heard. And I would like to make note that there are 2 district committees that are open for applications, the Statistics Curriculum Adoption Committee and the Science Curriculum Adoption Committee. So if you are interested in learning more about those or applying, you can go to susd.org/committee.
Thank you, Ms. Kearney. Anyone else? All right, I would like to just, a few pats on the back here, well-earned pats on the back. Thank you to the communications team, the security team, site and district leadership for their vigilance and the communications with families, staff, taking extra care last month in particular to neutralize the effects of the threats and hoax that were made on our schools, fortunately all non-credible. Also want to offer my grateful thanks to the police departments of the city of Scottsdale and Phoenix and the town of Paradise Valley for their vigilance and their partnership with our district. And it was demonstrated last evening at the participation of our town hall at Chaparral High School, where representatives from all 3 police departments joined the panel with our security team and Dr. Menzel. I thought that was a very useful, good use of time, and appreciate everyone that came out or submitted questions. I look forward to those same vigilant efforts being made to implement and comply with our suicide prevention policy, IHAMD, in its entirety. Related, I attended on Saturday the Mental Health Matters Arizona Conference. It was held down at Sky Song, and along with several Scottsdale school students, their parents, and representatives from a number of organizations that recognize if a young person is hurting, they need and deserve help. I want to thank the organizers, particularly the Kid in the Corner, for their continued leadership to remove the stigma around mental health. And lastly, well, not lastly, more congratulations. My understanding is the information session was held for students of the Fire Safety Academy that's been launched at Coronado High School here in the collaboration with the Scottsdale Fire Department and EVIT. And based on the number of interested students, it sounds like it's going to be a very positive example of working together with our community partners to benefit our students and our communities. So very much appreciate it. And again, pat on the back for our Coronado Dons. Special thanks to Dr. Menzel and Dr. Wilson on their collaboration and commitment, without which I think this opportunity would never have been created for students. And I would also just want to second and echo all the congratulations for our celebrations earlier. Miss Griffith of Anasazi, our primary years IB Teacher of the Year. Woo-woo. National Merit semifinalists, all of those amazing students across the district. I also want to second the motion for all of you to attend a performance of our outstanding students at any of the high schools or middle schools. They are worth your time. And also congratulations, more Coronado. Pats on the back here, the Marching Dons. Definitely an example of determination and resilience, it sounds like. And Coach Benjamin for the Arizona Cardinals Coach of the Week. And with that, I will end my governing board report and we'll move to future items. Are there any future items anyone would like to request? Ms. Sanowski.
Thank you, President. Dr. Hurtwells. Yes, I'd like for us to consider revising IHAMD to become an opt-out program for the gun safety awareness versus opt-in. I think our community is asking for that as well.
Any other requests? Ms. Carney.
Thank you. So I had submitted an agenda item for the 2024-25 Code of Conduct to be brought for board approval at an October meeting, but I was denied, stating that more information was needed, yet I still have not received what lacking information is needed for that board agenda item. On May 14th, updates to the Code of Conduct were presented to the board, yet we are operating the school year under.
That's not on the agenda, Ms. Carney. You made your request. You made your request before. It was denied. You have 45 days under policy for that item to be brought forward. Are there any other future items you'd like to request?
No, I'm just still requesting the 2024-25 Code of Conduct.
Noted. Noted, Deb.
Perfect, thank you.
Any others? I have two, the assessment and accountability presentation, and just so everyone knows, that is slated for November 12th. That will be brought to the governing board at that time. We are due for one, as well as a Native American programs update. November is Native American Heritage Month, and I would like that also to occur on November 12th, an update. We haven't heard from those folks in a while, and look forward to that, and that would be timely. All right. Lastly, here we have dates of upcoming meeting. Our next meeting is in 2 weeks on Tuesday, October 22nd at 6 p.m. That will be a special governing board meeting, but it will be at Coronado High School.
The video technology equipment is being repaired, and the repair will not be completed by the 22nd, so we will need to meet here for that meeting in order to have video. We could do audio only at MDA, but not video, so we've decided to move the meeting here.
All right, so take note, change of venue. We will be here at the high school. Ms. Sanowski?
Can I request that Gladys remind us prior to that 22nd meeting?
Ms. Wagner?
Thank you.
Your assistance is welcomed. Thank you. All right, with that, I will move to adjourn this regular meeting of the Governing Board of the Scottsdale Unified School District. Is there a second?
Second. Ms.
Sanowski seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. The time is 8:09 p.m. You have a nice evening, folks.